Hey everyone, have you ever really stopped to wonder how we all got here? I don't just mean our parents or our grandparents, but all of us. Today we're going to trace that incredible story all the way back to the beginning. This is the story of us. It's one of those huge questions we all ask ourselves at some point. It's this massive mystery that connects every single one of us. So, where did the human story really begin? Well, to find the answer, we have to think way bigger than just the history you read about in books. We need to rewind the clock, millions of years, to see how our story was truly written. At the very heart of our story is this one really powerful idea: evolution. It's basically the process of slow, gradual change that helps living things adapt and survive in their world. And guess what? We are the result of this amazing process. Now, our evolution wasn't just one long, slow crawl. It was actually marked by two huge, game-changing jumps forward. First, learning to walk on two legs, and second, the incredible, rapid growth of our brains. These two leaps changed absolutely everything. So let's go way back to the beginning of our family tree and meet our earliest relatives, the primates. We're part of a big group of mammals called primates. This family isn't just us, it also includes apes and monkeys. Our shared story starts with them, all the way back around 70 million years ago. That's a long time. So picture this. Our earliest ancestors were masters of the forest. They had these amazing hands and feet that could expertly grip branches, so they were totally at home in the trees. And even way back then, something special was starting to happen. They were developing brains that were already pretty large for their size. All right, now for that first giant leap. This is where our path really starts to look different from our primate cousins. And believe it or not, it all starts with just standing up. The fancy word for it is bipedalism. It's a simple word for a totally radical idea: walking around on 2 feet instead of 4. This one single shift laid the foundation for everything that came after. So, why did it happen? Well, the world itself was changing. Those lush forests were slowly turning into wide open grasslands. So our ancestors had to adapt. They came down from the safety of the trees and, over a very long time, learned to stand tall. And this single change? Oh, it transformed our potential completely. All of a sudden, with our hands free, we could carry food, hold our babies, and, this is the big one, start to make and use tools. Plus, standing tall gave us a new view of the world, letting us see over the tall grass to spot danger or find our next meal. So, with our hands freed up by walking, the stage was set for the next revolution, and this one was going to happen inside our heads: the super fast growth of the brain. Once our hands were free to interact with the world in all these new ways, to touch, to build, to experiment, our brains just took off. They began to develop at a totally new, accelerated pace. And this brings us to Homo habilis. His name literally means handyman, and for a very good reason. About 2.4 million years ago, this was the first of our ancestors that we know for sure was making and using stone tools. You see? A bigger brain and making tools went hand in hand. Using tools was just the beginning. The next chapter in our story is all about learning to control our environment in ways that no other creature had ever done before. This chart pretty much tells the story. You can see so clearly how, as brain size got bigger, our ancestors' innovations got way more complex. You go from the first simple stone tools of Homo habilis to Homo erectus, who learned to use fire, and finally to the Neanderthals, whose huge brains helped them become expert hunters in really tough, cold climates. You cannot even imagine how big of a deal the control of fire was for Homo erectus. It was absolutely revolutionary. It meant warmth in the cold, protection from predators at night, and, this is huge, the ability to cook food. Cooking unlocked so many more nutrients, which just helped to fuel even more brain growth. And the Neanderthals, wow, they were masters of survival. They were super strong, powerfully built, and they managed to thrive during the freezing ice ages in Europe. They were amazing hunters, had sophisticated tools, and lived in pretty complex social groups. 1,450 cubic centimeters. Let that sink in for a second. That was the average brain size for Neanderthals. It's actually a little bit larger than the average for us today. They were incredibly intelligent and resourceful.
And all of that brings us to the next and decisive chapter in our story, the arrival of a brand new species that would eventually spread across the entire globe. Homo sapiens, the rise of us.
About 40,000 years ago, it happened. Our direct ancestors, Homo sapiens sapiens, emerged on the scene. We were finally here, and the world was never going to be the same.
So, what was our secret sauce? What made us so different? Well, it was a unique mix of traits. We started creating much more advanced tools, from spear throwers to tiny needles for sewing clothes. But more than that, we created art. We painted these incredible scenes deep inside caves. We're starting to think symbolically and build the kinds of complex, organized societies that we live in today.
Let's just take a quick look back at this incredible journey. It all starts 70 million years ago with our first primate ancestors. Then you see the key milestones: Homo habilis making the first tools, Homo erectus taming fire, the tough Neanderthals surviving the cold, and finally, us, Homo sapiens, creating art and culture. Each step is just a breathtaking story of change and survival.
So, we've come so far through this long, winding road of evolution. And it leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. After all this change, what will the next step in the human story be?